Pag-asa says at least 19 areas in the country may experience a danger level heat index today, April 21. A heat index of 44 degrees Celsius is expected in Dagupan City, Pangasinan, and Apari, Cagayan. Meanwhile, areas such as Tuguegarao City and Etiaga, Isabela may experience a heat index of 43 degrees Celsius. On the other hand, a 42 degrees Celsius heat index is forecast in Pasay City, Bacnotan, La Union, Casiguran, Aurora, Tanawan, Batangas, and San Jose, Occidental, Mindoro. Pag-asa warns that heat indexes ranging from 42 degrees Celsius to 51 degrees Celsius pose high risk for heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. The public is urged to stay indoors, remain hydrated, and wear light clothing to avoid heat-related illnesses.
To get more details, let's talk to Pag-asa. We have with us Veronica Torres.
Hi, good morning, Veronica.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning to you and to all of our audience.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Usually about what time? No, let's just get it right out. What time is the peak ng isang heat index?
Opo. So, usually nakaka-record na tayo ng matataas na temperatura or posibleng mataas na rin yung heat index, pwedeng around tanghali, so pwedeng around 11, and then posibleng umabot around 3 to 4 p.m. Pero usually until 3 p.m. yung nare-record na matataas na temperatura din.
And ano yung mga highest temperatures na nare-record natin itong last whole week?
Opo. So, kung titingnan nga po natin yung heat index, yung pinakamataas na na-record natin is last April 15, kung saan 50 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
Yung heat index o yung damang init sa bandang Los Baños. Sa UPLB po siya na-record.
So, mga hanggang kailan natin mararanasan yung ganitong klase ng init ng temperatura?
O usually mararanasan nga natin to until around May. And then, unti-unti na tayong papunta sa wet season natin by either end of May or bandang start ng June.
Veronica, linawin ko lang na when you say, kunyari sa Los Baños, ng 50 degrees heat index, or kung ano yung temperature nun, it doesn't mean yung mga neighboring areas niya ay hindi gano'n ang temperature. It's just that sa area na yon meron kayong pang-record ng temperature.
Opo, so at least siguro, at least around 5 kilometers, pwedeng around doon yung daramdaman na heat index. So tama po kayo sa area po kayo kasi na yon, specific na ayun po yung na-record na heat index natin.
Ayun. Tsaka may announcement kayo that today, di ba, na medyo mainit today. Ano ang magiging forecasted temperature natin?
Opo. So nakikita natin kung sa heat index sa Metro Manila, posible yung 41 to 42 degrees Celsius yung forecast natin for today, April 21. And yung pinakamataas na heat index na nakikita natin, posible umabot ng 44 degrees Celsius sa may Dagupan City sa may Pangasinan.
Pero at the rate that our temperature is going right now, may nakikita ba tayong possibility na maaring tumaas pa ito more than the usual na taas, like 42 degrees Celsius, at some point nagka-50 pa nung last time sa Dagupan?
Opo, actually not ruled out pa na mas tumaas pa yung heat index sa lugar po natin, sa mga iba't ibang lugar sa ating bansa, dahil usually yung maximum temperature for the year na record kung hindi around May ay possible mga last part ng April.
Okay, so ang tanong natin sa ating bansa, syempre naghahanap pa rin tayo ng mga malalamig na may temperatura. Hanggang ngayon ba, may lamig pa rin ba sa Baguio and other parts of our country?
O, Tagaytay, Tanay.
Opo, so actually may lamig pa rin naman po sa mga Baguio, like sa matataas na lugar like Baguio and then Tagaytay, pero hindi na kasing lamig nung daramdaman natin noong February.
Ayan, given yung forecast temperatures nyo na binigay nyo, Veronica, ano yung mga tips na pwede mong ibigay sa mga kababayan natin that, will still end up going to the beach or mga magte-trekking, di ba? Ano yung mga advice?
Opo, sa ating mga kababayan, yung kung hindi na nga maiwasan yung paglabas ng tanghali, make sure na lang na magdadala tayo ng payong, iinom ng maraming tubig, at kung magbababad tayo sa araw, make sure na meron din tayong ilalagay na sunblocks sa katawan natin.
Alright, thank you for your time. That was weather forecaster Veronica Torres joining us live via Zoom.
Thank you po.
Now, what can the public do to avoid heat-related illnesses? Let's ask integrated and lifestyle medicine specialist Dr. Edwin Bien. Doc, welcome to News and Views.
Thank you very much po.
Okay, so ano po yung mga health risk of a danger level heat index? At narinig naman po natin yung possibility na mga pagtaas po ng temperatura
Tsaka mamaya,
sa
44.
iba't ibang lugar po ng ating bansa. That's right.
Well, there are certain levels, no? May mga levels na danger for our body dahil dito sa nararamdaman natin
Right.
na sobrang init. First, there would be dehydration. And then, there would be heat cramps kung saan maninigas yung ating mga muscles. Magkakaroon tayo ng heat exhaustion. After the heat exhaustion, pwedeng tumaas ang ating blood pressure and that could lead to heat stroke.
Yes. Pero
So,
Doc,
kamukha ng sabi kanina, ay pag-iingat po dito sa sobrang init ng panahon.
yeah, while we know, Doc, we always talk about it naman, no, the key to everything is hydration. But sometimes, kahit ilan advice ibibigay natin, mga kababayan natin don't know how to determine it on their own. Kunyari, nararanasan na pala niyang isang heat exhaustion. But individually, how do we discern or determine if I am at risk already of on the verge of a heat stroke?
Well, sa panahon ngayon kasi, ang akala natin, ang pag-inom ng tubig ay kung nauuhaw lamang tayo. And that is wrong, no? Dapat masanay na tayo na may dala tayong water bottle or water jug. And every time na mararamdaman natin kahit di tayo nauuhaw, siguro after a few minutes, like 15 or 20 minutes, let's take a sip out of that water bottle. At kailangan, yung water bottle natin, makatatlo o apat tayo sa maghapon. Assuming na yung water bottle natin is from 500 to 750 ml. Yan yung mga nabibili sa market eh. Now, the moment na makaramdam tayo na parang nauupos tayo ng kandila, nahihirapan na tayong huminga, at madali na tayong mahapo, that is a potential for heat stroke.
So you're saying, well, in relation to that, Doc, you're saying na, wag na natin hintayin na may maramdaman tayong parang yung sinabi mo, no? But what is too much in terms of drinking water? Is there really such a thing as drinking too much water?
Actually, para lang yan doon sa may mga problema talaga sa kidney nila, no? Na beyond 2 liters, hindi na nila kaya itong i-process. Pero tayo, ordinary people, healthy people, we can drink as much as 2 liters.
Okay.
So that means 4 na tagpa 500 yon. Huwag na rin nating hintayin na makaramdam tayo ng mga to. Ang gusto kong huwag nating hintayin na mauhaw tayo.
Yes.
By the time na nauuhaw tayo, dehydrated na, hindi yung lalamunan, kundi yung ating cellula.
Kasi usually nga ganun ang nangyayari pag nauuhaw lang tsaka lang iinom eh. Pero ang importante talaga, wag mo nang antayin na mauhaw ka. Pero Doc, what other precautions should vulnerable groups take during this extreme heat natin dito sa bansa natin?
Sa lilim lang tayo, make sure baon natin ang ating mga maintenance medicine. I understand kung bakit nasa mall, karamihan ng mga senior citizen sa panahon na ito. Mas magandang may kasama tayo na alam yung ating sitwasyon. Regularly take our blood pressure, go to our doctor to take our blood sugar. Huwag tayo mag-skip ng mga maintenance meds natin.
Right.
I understand, medyo mahal ang mga ito.
Oo. Pero Doc, additionally also, no, kasi nasasanay tayo, sinasabihan tayo lagi na pag galing ka sa init, bumiyahe ka, pawisan ka, huwag ka kaagad papasok sa malamig na kwarto or na lugar kasi masama daw yun, papasma ka or kung ano-ano man. What's your take on this? Ano po ba to?
There is some truth to it. Alam mo kasi yung biglang change ang temperature sa ating katawan, maaring ma-shock din ang ating katawan. It's just like taking a bath. Huwag ka kagad maliligo ng malamig, lalo na babasahin mo, ulo ka agad. You start first with your feet para mag-adjust yung katawan mo and then going up sa pagbasa ng ating katawan. So, ang may papayo ko, lumilim muna tayo bago tayo magpa-check dun sa security guard.
Okay. So, good tip.
I'd like to ask also na baka ano yung advice mo dito. Sometimes yung mga ibang kababayan natin, instead of drinking water, they drink yung yung una uuso ngayon, yung salted water na may, or kaya you can buy it off the market. May mga DIY pa nga minsan eh. Ano ba yung take mo dito, Doc?
Totoo yun. Alam mo kasi kapag ang iniinom natin ay distilled water, it is devoid of certain minerals. So tama yun, ang tawag dun sa iniinom na yun ay oral rehydration drink. Pero hindi natin kailangan bumili ng mga mamahalin, lalo na kung flavored at matatamis. Pwede natin talagang gawin ito doon sa isang jug ng water natin. Lalagyan lang natin ng kalahating kutsarita ng sugar. And then siguro a pinch of salt. And that is enough, no? So para ma-replenish yung kailangan natin.
This is 1 liter of water, tas yung binanggit mong a spoon of sugar and a pinch of salt.
Kung 1 liter, 1 teaspoon of sugar.
So effective
Tapos
na yun.
kung halimbawa namang salt, 1/4 teaspoon na yan. Pero wag na wag tawag tayo. Alam mo, tayo ang hilig natin magkape, no?
Yeah, ay, Doc, ako. Bawal ba magkape?
Power natin.
Bawal
ang
ba?
power ng Pilipino, kayang magkape ng tanghali, no?
Ay, bawal yon.
Kasi dehydrating yun eh. Maiihi tayo, lalo tayong mawawala ng tubig. Huwag tayong iinom ng soda water, yung mga matatamis na cola drinks. Kasi ganun din, diuretic yun.
Yeah.
Huwag na huwag din tayong iinom ng energy drink kapag tag-init. Dahil tataas ang blood pressure natin.
Yung may mga lemon na nilalagay, cucumber in the water, okay lang din naman yun.
Okay yun. That gives flavor. But then, like I mentioned, you can add the electrolytes doon sa konting sugar, konting salt.
Okay.
Yan.
Lastly,
I'd like to ask muna, Doc, there has been debate kasi whether drinking cold water is better than drinking a room temperature water. May mga ibang tao dyan na they prefer, and sabi nila, it's safer and healthier daw drinking room temp water.
Tama din. Alam mo, may tama mga lola natin noong araw yan ang sinasabi eh. Huwag din tayong iinom ng sobrang lamig or iced water kasi vasoconstricting yon. Ibig sabihin, isasara nun yung ugat natin. Di ba nagkakaroon nga tayo ng brain freeze?
Yes,
so
yes.
wag. Yung konting mapatay lang yung init na siguro 1 ice cube para lang hindi sobrang init yung lumabas sa jug natin.
Yes.
That's also better.
So, Doc, totoo pala yung kumain ako ng bulalo, crispy pata. Ay, wag ka iinom ng malamig, ha?
After.
Yung mga payo ni Lolo, Lola, totoo pala yun.
Magsosolidify yan. Yung kinain mong bulalo, ay, di ba, hinigop mo yung sabaw, liquid. Pagdating sa tiyan at ininuman mo ng malamig na tubig, ay nako, ano na yan, parang mantika na pwedeng kutsarain.
Ay, wow.
Okay.
Madami palang ngayon, do's and don'ts, lalo na sa tag-init ngayon, Doc.
It really...
Lastly, Doc, ano ba advice na mabibigay mo sa kababayan natin that are watching now and ayaw pa rin na magpaawat na lumabas, gusto pa rin mag-beach, gusto pa rin mag-trekking?
Pero most especially, dun din sa mga mga kababayan natin na talagang heat-related yung kanilang mga trabaho, laging nasa
walang choice.
Mga farmers natin, mga traffic enforcers.
In general, ano advice?
Oo nga, no? Yung mga MMDA natin, mga kapulisan natin, tagapagwalis natin, as I understand, may kausapan na sila with the Department of Health na meron yata silang certain break, no?
Heat break.
From 10, I think from 12 noon until 3 or 4 p.m.
Yes.
So, kailangan may baon silang tubig. Meron jug-jug, mga isang galon na baon nilang tubig. Because ang dehydration dahil sa evaporation through sweating, mas mataas sa kanila. So, please drink up a lot of water. Water is the best drink.
All right.
And water is key. All right. Thank you very much, Doc, for joining us today. That was Ask Integrated and Lifestyle Medicine Specialist, Dr. Edwin Bien.
Wala pong anuman. Be healthy sa mga kababayan natin. Bye for now.
Thank you, Doc. All right, the health department said that 2 monkeypox cases in Davao City are mild and pose no additional risk. The DOH confirmed that both cases involved the clade 2 variant, which is less severe. Davao City health officials also clarified that the patient who died had other complications due to severe immunocompromise, not monkeypox. Monkeypox symptoms include rashes, fever, headache, and swollen lymph nodes. It spreads through close contact with infected individuals, contaminated items, or animals.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Now, authorities have arrested 3 suspects in the kidnapping and murder of Filipino-Chinese businessman Anson Ke and his driver Armani Pabilo. Here's a report.
Chinese national David Tanyao surrendered to the PNP anti-kidnapping group and confessed on April 19. He admitted that he was involved in the kidnapping and killing of Filipino-Chinese businessman Anson Ke and his driver Armani Pabilo. 2 other Filipino suspects, Richard Catequista and Richard Austria David, also known as Richard Tan Garcia, were earlier arrested in Palawan. All 3 have been charged with 2 counts of kidnapping for ransom with homicide. In the CCTV footage released by the PNP, Ke and Pabilo were seen visiting a house in Maykawayan, Bulacan on March 29, driving a black van. According to the police, they met with a female Chinese national who acted as a bait for the suspects. Another CCTV video captured the same black van at the toll gate of Tambubong exit in NLEX, this time driven by Garcia. In a separate CCTV clip, both Garcia and Yao were seen outside the same house visited by the victims. Police say this is where the victims were tied up and killed, with some of their belongings recovered inside. Authorities are now looking into motives beyond kidnapping for ransom.
May tinitingnan po kaming anggulo na posible po na Pogo-related po ito. Meron po kaming isa pang anggulo na we have a very solid lead na tinitignan na hindi lamang kidnapping for ransom ang pakay ng grupo na ito.
Meanwhile, police say Yao had previously been implicated in at least 5 other kidnapping cases linked to Pogo operations. While 3 suspects are now in custody, 2 more Chinese nationals identified as the main perpetrators remain at large, along with the suspected mastermind. Authorities also revealed that the group demanded $220 million in cryptocurrency as ransom. They are now tracking the flow of the digital funds in hopes of identifying more individuals involved in the crime.
The death toll from the capsized MV Honghai 16 has risen to 9, with search and rescue operations still underway, according to the Philippine Coast Guard. Here's the report.
Cesar Monserrate, a 63-year-old crew member, had been planning to retire. According to his wife Evelyn, the MV Honghai 16 was supposed to be his final deployment. But he never made it home after the ship sank on Holy Tuesday. On Black Saturday, the search and rescue operation ended with the recovery of his body. He is the 7th confirmed fatality in the incident. The family has requested privacy at this time. As of Easter Sunday, the Philippine Coast Guard has recovered 2 more bodies, while 2 crew members remain missing. Authorities are temporarily sheltering the 14 survivors.
Tumatagilid po talaga yun pag nagkakara po kami. Pero hindi naman ganong tagilid. Kaya parang nasanay na po kami na pag tumagalid, okay lang, okay lang. Pero nung sobra na po yung tagilid, parang kinabahan na po kami.
Tinutulungan ko po si Kempe na kunin yung order namin prutas sa bangka po. Tapos yun po, nakakaramdam na din po kami na tumatagilid na. Kaya tumakbo po ako sa papuntang port side po namin. Kasi po nandun po lahat ng tao, sir.
An investigation by the Maritime Industry Authority is now underway. The company tasked with removing the vessel is expected to arrive this week.
All right, let's talk this further. We have Lieutenant Junior Grade Kenneth Bogabong, the station commander of the Philippine Coast Guard Occidental Mindoro, joining us today. Good morning po. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, ma'am. Lieutenant Junior Grade Bogabong, Philippine Coast Guard, Incident Commander.
Opo, Lieutenant.
Sa Occidental.
Opo, hingi po kami ng update dito po sa nangyaring insidente.
Yes, ma'am. So far, ma'am, as of now, ongoing pa rin yung underwater search operation natin mula sa panguna ng ating technical diving group from National Headquarters, Philippine Coast Guard, kasama ang Special Operation Group ng Coast Guard District Southern Tagalog.
Okay. Dito po sa investigasyon na ginagawa po natin, nakikita na po ba natin yung possible na dahilan kung bakit po ito nagkaroon po ng aksidente na ganito?
We have a separate team na ongoing pa rin yung investigation, ma'am. Nakakandak sila ng maritime casualty investigation.
Okay.
So to determine the purpose of incident. So wala pa, ma'am, wala pa.
Wala pa.
Antayin
Pero
na lang
nakausap
yung
po
ma-finalize.
natin po ba yung mga survivors? Ano po ba yung mga statement nila regarding this?
Yes, ma'am, nakakausap naman. Nagbibigay naman sila ng sworn statement. Antayin na lang natin, ma'am, tapos yung result of investigations.
Doon po sa
Magbibigay
ginagawa...
naman po kami ng result of investigation.
Kailan po yun?
Ongoing pa, ma'am, ongoing pa.
Okay. Doon po sa search and retrieval operation po ninyo, do we see also a possibility of oil spill within the area?
Correct mo lang, search and hindi search and...
Ma'am, our objectives on our operation, ma'am, is not retrieval. Nanatili ako sa underwater search operation, ma'am. Search and rescue operation.
Okay.
So, ngayon, ma'am, may units kami na focus sa environmental concerns, which is the Marine Environmental Protection Group na nagkakandak ng seaborne patrol operation within the vicinity of the capsized vessel. And aside from that, ma'am, we have other agency like DNF, the LGUs, na they conducting shoreline patrol monitoring if there's any sign of oil spill. So as of today, negative tayo sa sightings ng oil spill dito sa area, ma'am.
Okay. And then, meron po ba tayong target na timeline para po matanggal po itong vessel na ito dyan sa dagat?
So far, ma'am, kahapon ang updates is nag-conduct ng assessment yung Salvor Company na hinired ng owner. So antayin na lang natin, ma'am, magbigay sila ng salvage assessment and other documentary requirements na may papasa dito sa aming office para mag-apply ng salvage permit dito sa amin, ma'am.
Yes, Lieutenant, if ever ba, anong mga liability nitong shipping line na ito na after an investigation, ano yung possible na kaso meron siya?
Hindi pa namin masasagot yan, sir. Antayin lang namin, sir, matapos yung investigations.
Okay.
Tsaka makailan, sir.
Okay. Would you also know... Go ahead.
Main objectives namin, ma'am, is the search operations na yung naiwang missing individual na dalawa.
Sa ngayon po ba, ano po yung mga challenges na kinakaharap ng ating mga sa Philippine Coast Guard in terms of the search?
Of course, ma'am, considering, ma'am, na ang barko is capsize, so hindi natin alam, ma'am, yung structure sa loob ng vessels. So yung risk ng operations natin is chances of falling debris sa loob and visibility sa loob ng barko.
Yung sinasabi po natin, sabi nyo nga po, negative pa naman po sa oil spill. Pero syempre, we want naman po na handa tayo in the future kung sakasakali in the following days magkaroon po dahil nga capsize nga po itong barko na to. Are we also doing anything? Yung anong tawag po ba doon? Yung oil boom o spill boom within the area?
Yes po, ma'am. The Marine Environmental Protection Group of Philippine Coast Guard nag-deploy sila ng 250 meters oil spill boom sa vicinity ng barko, and then may naka-standby kaming mga combat oil spill equipment dito, ma'am, sa area. Prepared naman, ma'am. Prepared naman.
Sir, meron po ba tayong any idea or information kung is this the first time na na-aksidente itong vessel na ito o meron na pong record before?
Still for verification pa namin, ma'am, in validation.
Okay. So, ngayon po talaga, regarding the investigation, wala pa po kayong ibang masasabi doon dahil iba pong team yung nag-handle nun. Kayo po ay talaga sa search and rescue operation po. So far po, anything to add po? Anything to add po doon sa inyong mga nabanggit kanina regarding po your operation?
Patuloy pa rin ang pagre-response namin kasama ang mga LGUs from representative of Philippine Coast Guard ng iba't ibang units na pinadala dito mula sa National Headquarters. Nanatili pa rin kami sa under search operation.
Right.
Hindi na namin patuloy pa rin kami, ma'am, always.
Alright, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras sa Lieutenant Junior Grade Kenneth Bongabong, the Station Commander of the Philippine Coast Guard Occidental Mindoro. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you po. Good morning.
Now, with less than a month before the midterm elections, re-electionist Senator Bongo tops the recent social weather station survey. The poll shows Go leading with 45%. He was followed by ACT-CIS Representative Erwin Tulfo with 43% and Senator Lito Lapid at 34%. Former Senate President Tito Soto, along with incumbent Senators Pia Cayetano, Bato de la Rosa, and Bong Revilla, trail behind the top three. Other strong contenders include broadcaster Ben Tulfo, Makati Mayor Abby Binay, and Representative Camille Villar. Former Senators Ping Lacson and Manny Pacquiao also made it to the top 12. The survey was conducted from April 11 to 15.
Now let's ask a political analyst for his insights about the latest SWS survey, senatorial survey. We have with us Professor Edmund Tayao, President of the Political Economic Elemental Researchers and Strategists, or PEERS. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Morning, Angelo. Good morning, Angela. Good morning to all our viewers.
Yes, sir. Let's get let's get right to it. Si Senator Bongo consistently from the start has been holding the top spot, either one or two siya from the very beginning. Now we all know people credit him with the Malasakit Center, but why is he holding on to this lead?
Well, let me just correct that a bit. No, early on, the one that was leading was Representative Erwin Tulfo.
Yes.
Only recently that Senator Bongo took over the lead. No,
right.
And consistently, I think in the last 2 months,
yeah,
surveys have been showing that he's been leading the pack so far. What explains that resurgence? I think it has something to do more with the campaign. Many are saying that the slate that's identified with the former president has been gaining support. Actually, if you're going to look at the numbers, the ones gaining support are only Senator Bongo and Senator Bato de la Rosa.
Yeah.
There have been some improvement, in the numbers of all the other senatorial candidates in their group, but these have not been enough to land them anywhere near the Magic 12. Let me just also say, so that the viewers will be informed, it doesn't mean that because the surveys are saying that these are the ones that will make it in the Magic 12.
Yeah.
Hindi pa ho final yan, no? It doesn't mean that they're the ones who are really going to make it in the coming elections, especially those ranking 8 to 12, nagbabago pa yan significantly. In fact,
yes,
kung ina-explain yan, kahit simula nung 2013, medyo unpredictable na yung numbers, kasi lagi kong ina-explain na yung pagboto po natin ng senador, hindi naman isa lang ang binoboto natin, ang binoboto natin 12.
Yeah.
Yung ba, hindi ako nakakabuo ng 12 dahil talagang kung sino lang yung napili ko, yun lang ang binoboto ko. So dahil hindi naman lahat bumoboto consistently ng 12, madaling magbago yung ng mga kandidato, kasi mga multi-member district kung tawagin yan sa lengguwahe ng electoral system. So, mas mabuti pa din po na pipiliin ninyo kung sino sa tingin ninyo yung marunong at magaling, hindi yung dahil nakita nyo lang sa survey at dahil papula.
Alright, I'd like just one more regarding that. We were talking about yung resurgence of candidates ng PDP Laban. We have with us Senator Bato and Senator Bongo. But what happened to the others? Kasi ang school of thought ng iba, kung umaangat yung mga Duterte base, bakit we don't see at least 4 or 5 names there together with sila Senator Bato?
Actually, they've practically considered and done practically every trick in the book, so to speak. I always introduce myself as a part of a firm because part of what we're doing is actually monitoring all these exchanges, particularly in the social media. And to be honest with you, mas marami ngayon sa YouTube yung mga fake news, yung mga lalo na meron pang pinapa-viral nila na magkakagulo daw sa darating na halalan. Anong kinalaman nito dito sa pagpili ng mga senador natin? Kasi nga sabi nila umaangat at nagkakaroon ng nagkakaroon ng suporta na dadagdagan, lumalakas yung mga grupo ng dating Pangulong Duterte. Actually, kaya nga pagka tiningnan mo yung survey, importanteng makita natin na hindi naman talaga totoo yun. Pero pagdating sa social media, talagang maingay sila. At yun din ang rason kung bakit sa tingin ko they're trying to discredit the game now, the strategy now is to discredit the coming election because they seem to have already anticipated that they are not going to get the majority of those seats that are up for grabs.
Prof, paano naman po yung dalawa, yung opposition na ngayon medyo visible na, although hindi pa rin sila sa top 12, si Senator Bam Aquino and Kiko Pangilinan are in the 15-16 spot if I'm not mistaken. Do we see also a trend for them going up or baka mag-plateau sila?
We only have 3 weeks to go, Angela. The only survey that we're looking forward to now is the exit poll. And sure if they still have time to go up, kasi yung number 1 to 12, again, ang lagi kong example diyan is in 2013, all of the surveys including the exit poll anticipated Senator Grace Poe to land either the best number is number 8. Pero nung exit poll, baka mag-number 12 siya. Pero alam naman natin yung nangyari, nag-number 1 noong 2013. So simula nung 2013, pag tinignan mo yung mga surveys, medyo hindi na nila nakukuhang eksakto yung nagiging resulta ng halalan. At sa totoo lang, kaya nga yun ang palagi natin kinukorek, lalong-lalo na sa mga botante,
Exactly.
Hindi po ibig sabihin na nandyan sa survey, sigurado na yan. Now, having said that, yung nandun sa 1 to 12, maaari pang magbago. Pero kapag ka ikaw napakalayo, malayo ka sa number 12, number 15, 16, sabi mo nga, kailangan mo pang dagdagan pa siguro yung kampanya mo, just so that you can get yourself in the magic 12. We can say that they've practically considered everything. If you notice, Senator Bam is no longer using yellow.
Yeah.
He's no longer using the name Liberal Party. So it seems he's trying to distance himself from the original group that he actually belongs to. But still, people remember them. So it seems talagang hindi naging maganda na ang imahe ng grupo nila ever since it was exposed to a lot of issues against against them.
Prof, I'd like to ask about yung two brothers you have, yung Tulfo brothers. Initially si Ben Tulfo was nakadikit kay Erwin Tulfo, kay Congressman Erwin Tulfo, but you see his numbers have been going down recently. But he's still within the 12. Pero what do you attribute this distance from Ben to Erwin?
Well, again, it must have something to do with the campaign as well. Two factors. One, hindi naman kasing lakas ng kampanya, ang kampanya ni Ben compared to Congressman Erwin. And not to mention, of course, that Congressman Erwin belongs to a proper slate. Ben doesn't belong to any group. He's running as an independent. Second of all, I don't know, but I'm inclined to think that the campaign against voting for those brothers and sisters running together, alam mo, bukod tangi talaga itong halalan na ito, na talagang hayagan. Dati-dati, nagsusunuran lang, no?
Yeah.
Na kung nag-aabot lang ang magkapatid ng mag-ama sa pwesto, pero ngayon sabay-sabay na sila, no? At pinapangalandakan pa, no? Lalong-lalo na sa local elections. There's one running for governor, yung anak niya yung vice governor, anak din niya yung congressman. And kumbaga proud pa sila na tumatakbo sila na magkakamag-anak ng isang pamilya. So I'm inclined to think that I hope, no, and I still hope that with the 3 weeks the people can really think a lot, no, about voting for those belonging to the same family.
I want to go to Senator Amy Marcos also, no. Until now also wala rin naman masyadong paggalaw, hindi siya pumapasok sa top 12. Pero do you think magkakaroon po ng epekto yung kumbaga official endorsement ni VP Sara?
Commercial niya.
Yeah.
Alam mo, magandang tanong yan. Nakita naman na natin ang reaksyon ng mga supporters nila. Hindi naging maganda ito sa supporters ng administration. Yung Ilocano Bloc has been really, expressed, no, misgivings as far as this move by Senator Amy, no. Right. On the other, hindi din siya tinanggap ng mga grupo na supporters ng mga Duterte. And I hope that the people would take note of this. Iba po yung grupo ng dating Pangulong Duterte at ng pangalawang Pangulo. Kaya madalas nag-aaway din po sila at sila mismo nagdedebate. No? Kaya ko po binanggit yon kasi tingnan po natin yung naging reaksyon ng dalawang grupong yan na supposedly supporters of the same family, political family, the Dutertes. But both groups have been quite lukewarm, no, as far as actually hindi lang lukewarm hindi talaga maganda, negative yung naging epekto sa kampanya ni Senator Amy. And last but not the least, this is an interesting move on the part of the Vice President. If Senator Amy wins, no, and improves significantly her numbers, this means that the endorsement of the Vice President is really that potent and therefore remains a potent force, no, politically. Pero pag natalo si Senator Amy, ang iisipin ng mga tao, baliwala naman pala itong endorsement na ito. So this is something that we're monitoring closely as political observers.
Nako. And also, syempre, ito medyo may yung I wanna ask you, no, based on your studies, and yung tagal nyo na po sa larangan na to, Prof. And we've seen a lot of voters after po ng election, few months after the election, may mga reklamo na dahil hindi natutupad yung mga reklamo. Reklamo doon po sa mga lumabas sa resulta ng election. And yet again, they still vote the same people.
Exactly. Kaya nga, lagi nating sinasabi, no, wag kayong walang karapatang magreklamo yung mga botante na hindi naman iniisip kung sino yung dapat nilang iboto. You know, that our group has been campaigning for bottom or botong tama. Sa isip namin, kung may budots, dapat may bottom o may botong tama. Kasi alam po ninyo, mga kababayan, hindi po entertainment ang paggugobyerno. Hindi po entablado yan na magsasayawan lang at magkakantahan at magpapagandahan, magpapagwapuhan ang mga opisyal natin. At lalong-lalo na po, no, malaki po ang mga issue na kinakaharap natin. Hindi lang po yung West Philippine Sea. Hindi ko alam kung ilan na sa mga kandidato ang nagsalita ng tungkol sa West Philippine Sea. Hindi po ibig sabihin na nagsalita ka ng tungkol sa WPS, gusto mo na ng gera. Hindi po totoo yun. No? Kailangan nating pag-usapang mabuti dahil ito po ay part ng ating sovereign territory. Hindi, marami pa, no? Pasensya, napakadaldal ko. Pero pati yung mga taripa na ipinapataw ng Estados Unidos, no? The tariff was this a strategy that President Trump is now employing to many of the countries, no? Hindi naman uniform yan. If you are going to look at the tariff that's imposed on China, that is going to impact on many countries, especially small countries like ours. So we need people who actually understand. Kailangan po natin ng mga tao na nakakaintindi ng mga tamang pulisiya para tayo po kahit papaano, no, maka-adapt tayo at maka-respond tayo sa mga issues na ito.
Prof, I'd like to ask you, we're talking about competence, but also another thing that gets people elected is turnout, regardless of how popular you are. And this has been a very important tactic in the U.S., voter turnout. Now, in Philippine politics, there's been a movement right now from the Duterte camp. Right now, sa social media, makikita mo that they're tainting, as we said, the election is not going to be credible anymore. Okay, now the question is, who benefits more from a lower turnout? Kasi pinupush na mga Duterte camp. Huwag na kayo bumoto, sayang lang ang boto nyo. I'm not saying it's from them, but it seems like sa social media, ganon. Who benefits from a low turnout?
Actually, hindi ka na tawag dito, wala ka nang, I mean, sigurado na, no? There's no doubt that this misinformation is coming from them. And again, I'm claiming this because we've been monitoring it, and we have the links, we have the numbers, we have URL, and so on. No? In fact, many of the disinformation are not even coming from the Philippines. No? This information is also coming from other countries. That's why we've been really hyping the information campaign that, hey, you have to be wary with candidates supporting supported, no, by foreign interests, no, particularly those really active, no, in hurting us, no, literally, no. So sa madalit sabi, alam mo na ang may ganansya diyan, the ones who are going to gain, no, if people are not going to go out and vote because of fear, will be those spreading it. Kasi nakikita mo na nga sa surveys na hindi naman sila ang tawag dito, hindi sila pumapasok doon sa Magic 12.
Yeah.
And that again, ipaalala po natin, no, sa mga kababayan natin, mula pa po October, they've been wanting really, no, people to go to EDSA. They've been convincing people to go sa and call for the fall of the sitting president. And naka-experience na po tayo, hindi lang po isa, 2 EDSA na po ang na-experience natin at nakita natin ang epekto nito sa ekonomiya. Hindi ba pwedeng maghintay naman muna tayo kung kailan yung susunod na halalan para sa Pangulo?
Siguro lastly na lang po, Prof, what else can we do? Kasi I understand the importance of voters education, di ba? Information campaign for them. Pero yung, like, for example, yung mga debate, hindi na rin po yan medyo gumagana rin because nag-set na rin ng president. Ito nga mismo si President Bongbong Marcos during the 2022 election, di siya umattend ng mga debates. So what else can we do para po magkaroon po ng edukasyon yung mga kababayan natin pagdating sa pagboto? Dahil ngayon pa lang po, ang alam ng mga kababayan natin, yung iba po, boboto nilang senador kasi tumutulong sa kapwa. When in fact, being a senator is not about helping other people, but, di ba, to craft a law.
Exactly. Magandang punto yan. Alam po ninyo, nung panahon namin, lalo na nung ako'y nag-aaral, pupunta ka sa library, ang una mong pupuntahan yung catalog, no, para mahanap mo yung mga librong kailangan mo, yung mga journal articles, and so on and so forth. Ngayon po, lahat, isa-search mo na lang. Dati kailangan mo pa ng computer para mag-search. Ngayon po, hindi. Meron kang telepono, kaya mo na kagad ma-search lahat. Sana di lang yung pagka nakita mo sa feed mo, nakita mo sa Facebook mo, nakita mo sa IG o TikTok or whatever, yun na yun. Isi-share mo na kagad at papaniwalaan mo na kagad. Alamin po muna ninyong mabuti. Lalong-lalo na yung mga pinalalabas na mga video dyan. Karamihan po dyan, talaga namang, kayo lang po ang magdedesisyon talaga. Kung kayo po ay magpapaloko, talagang wala pong mangyayari sa atin. Mag-search po kayo, alamin ninyong mabuti kung totoo yung nababasa ninyo. Bago po ninyo ito i-share. Sabi nga nila, think before you click.
Correct.
Alright, on that note, maraming salamat po, Diego.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Maraming salamat po, Political Analyst Professor Ed Montaya. Thanks for joining us po.
Don't go away, we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Travelers have begun returning from the provinces after the Holy Week break. For updates, we have mobile journalist Evan Tarinque, live from the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange. Ano, kamusta na Mr. PITX? Ano ba ang balita natin dyan?
Diego, matapos nga yung tinaguriang Holy Week Exodus noong nakaraang linggo ay nagsimula na magsibaligan yung mga pasaherong nagbakasyon o doon na sa kanilang probinsya, nagsimanasada pabalik dito sa Metro Manila. Balik na sa normal ng takbo ng buhay ng marami matapos ang ilang araw na bakasyon, bagamat inaasahan ang dagsa ng mga pasaherong babalik ng Maynila. Kapansin-pansin ngayong araw na medyo maluwag na sitwasyon sa loob ng PITX. Ito ay dahil mabilis lamang ang paglabas ng mga pasahero at hindi na tumatagal sa loob ng terminal. Nagsimula ang pagbabalikan ng mga pasahero kahapon, Easter Sunday. Ayon sa datos ng PITX, umabot sa halos 170,000 ang bilang ng mga pasaherong dumating kahapon mula sa iba't ibang probinsya. Ngayong umaga naman, nasa mahigit 60,000 na ang naitalang bilang ng pasahero at inaasahan itong aabot muli sa mahigit 170 sa pagtatapos ng araw. Nakausap naman natin yung ilan sa mga biyaherong nagsabing hindi naman ticket yung kanilang naging problema ngayon, kundi yung matinding traffic pabalik dito sa Metro Manila. Yung dating 12 hours sa biyahe nila mula Bicol ay inabot ng halos 16 na hours dahil nga sabay-sabay yung pag-uwi ng mga kapatid nating motorista. Ayon sa ilang pasahero, tanging pagtulog lamang ang naging paraan nila upang makaiwas sa stress sa kanilang biyahe. Ayon sa pamunuan ng PITX, inaasahan pa rin yung kanilang pagbugso ng pasahero papalik ng Metro Manila hanggang Miyerkules. Sa kabila naman nito, nilinaw ng pamahalaan ng terminal na walang nag-positive sa mga bus drivers sila sa sinagawang random drug testing ng LTFRB nitong mga nakaraang araw. At muling kanilang ipinapaalala na huwag na po magdala ng mga ipinagbabawas sa loob ng terminal dahil mula April 9 hanggang kahapon, nasa 380 na yung mga kumpiska nilang mga ipinagbabawal dito sa terminal. Diego,
Yeah, Evan, go ahead. Go ahead.
Kasi although sabi nga nila ang observance of the Holy Week this year was generally peaceful, I was wondering if meron bang mga naitalang untoward incidents dyan mismo sa PITX or okay naman lahat?
Yes, Angela, wala namang naitalang mga untoward incidents na nangyari dito sa loob ng terminal. Yung nga lang kasi talagang yung confiscation lang talaga dahil sa entrance pa lang, yung confiscation talaga ng mga pinagbabawal, talaga yung mahigpit, dahil hindi ka talaga papalagpasin noong mga scanners, pati ng mga security personnel na may dala pangaya dito sa loob ng terminal. Yung ibang desk naman, yung mga police assistance desk, nagsikalat naman yan or kalat-kalat yan dito sa loob ng terminal. Meron sa first floor, meron sa second floor, at sa iba't ibang bahagi pa ng terminal. So, ayon sa kanila, wala pa naman silang nakita untoward incidents. Pero sa kabila niyan, dahil marami pa rin tao or sabay-sabay yung pag-uwi pa rin ng mga kapatid natin mula sa probinsya, pabalik dito sa Metro Manila, ay maging vigilant pa rin naman dahil nga hindi pa rin nga mawawala yung mga masasamang loob na may balak na gumawa ng masama, gaya nga ng pagbubudol at yung mga pananalisik sa mga kapatid natin.
Yan, Evan, based on experience mo last year at this year, ano ang mga nakikita mong pagbabago in terms of how yung PITX or the other terminals have managed this influx of passengers?
Yes, Diego, banks from last year, medyo last year talagang may parts dito sa loob ng terminal na talagang mainit. At yung iba talaga wala na halos maupuan na yung ibang pasero, wala na halos maupuan at yung mga pila talaga sa mga ticketing booth talagang sobrang haba. Pero this year naman, base dun sa ating pag-monitor dito, halos more than 1 week tayo nag-monitor dito, parang hindi naman na ganun yung naging scenario, maraming mga upuan. Actually, yung mga bakante at pwedeng maupuan. Yung pila naman sa mga ticketing booths, hindi naman na ganun kahaba. Pero yung iba pa rin talagang pahirapan dahil ubusan na ng tickets, dahil yung iba, hindi talaga, mas pinili talaga na late or doon na mismo sa araw na yun, bumili ng ticket. Napaulit-ulit natin yung sinasabi na book in advance para maiwasan na yung mga mahabang pila at yung pag-aantay ng matagal at para maka-secure ka agad ng tickets.
Ayun. At dahil dyan, Evan, pwede ka nang umuwi at hindi ka na si Mr. PITX. Until next year, Evan. Thank you very much, Evan. That was mobile journalist Evan Tarinque live from PITX. In sports, the Creamline Cool Smashers kicked off their 2025 ABC Women's Champions League campaign with an impressive sweep of Al Nasser Club. Creamline dominated the match in straight sets 29-27, 25-20, and 25-19. Alyssa Valdez, along with imports Erica Staunton, Anastasia Kolomoyets, and Anastasia Kudryashova, led the team's strong rebound after the PBL Finals loss. Staunton topped the scoring with 17 points, while Valdez contributed 10 in the victory at the PhilSports Arena in Pasig. The Cool Smashers aimed to maintain their momentum as they face Kazakhstan's Setsu VC today. The PLDT high-speed hitters also opened their ABC campaign with a win, beating Queensland Pirates of Australia in straight sets. Savvy Davison led the high-speed hitters with 14 points, while Wilma Salas added 10 points.
Meanwhile, fans of the late Philippine screen legend Nora Honor gathered to pay their final respects. Many Noranians traveled from different provinces just for a chance to see their idol one last time. Some even spent the night patiently waiting in long lines to honor her memory. Beyond her iconic roles in film and television, her children, Ian and Matet, said her greatest role was being a mother. They also expressed their gratitude to the Noranians who made efforts to see their idol one last time.
Ang mami namin, grabe magmahal yan eh. Alam natin yan. Grabe siya magbigay. Unahin niya mga ibang tao bago ang sarili niya.
Malaking pasasalamat namin kay Mami dahil kinuha niya kami para maging anak niya. You know, for accepting me and my brothers and my sister. Inampun niya kami, maiparamdam niya sa amin yung pagmamahal niya.
Again, diba? Our condolences to the family.
Another icon has left us.
National artist.
National artist. Alright, well, before we let you go, I'd like to leave everyone with a quote. While getting lost in all those little things that seem so important, don't forget the little things that matter. A quote from Virginia Allison. And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III. We are One News.
All sides, all the time.